Okay, good evening, or good afternoon, I probably should say, and welcome. It's really nice to see a number of you who are returning for this event, and obviously it's great to see those of you who are here for the first time. And thanks to our current new students and their families for making this work. My name is Gioia. I am the headmaster here, and I also teach English. For almost 20 years, our new students have honored teachers at this occasion. I am thankful for our admissions office, who kind of marshals everything, our library, who gets a book to honor every teacher, our dining hall, who provides some refreshments this afternoon, and of course, students who have nominated those of you who are here today for this occasion. I knew immediately 20 years ago that this idea was a success because of the smiles and appreciation on the faces of the individuals here for this event. It is a moment today for us to pause and to remember the influence a teacher has had on all of us. As Henry Adams once said, a teacher affects eternity and never knows where his or her influence stops. I am particularly proud that our school has a well-known film written about a teacher, Tom Schulman's film, Dead Poets Society. I love the fact that he's an English teacher in that film and one that English teachers literally around the world will talk to me about when they know that the film was created by one of our graduates, Tom Schulman. So this is meant to be a very enjoyable and afternoon, a short program in here, mainly to bring home the point of how important teachers are and these relationships. I'm now going to introduce my colleague, Dr. Tim Boyd, who teaches history here and is the academic dean. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Boyd.
And I also wanted to say a few brief words of welcome to you all and to thank you for being here today. In a moment, you're going to hear from three great students at various stages of their MBA careers who will tell you why they are grateful to the teachers they have had over the years. But what I want to do is to say a word of thanks on behalf of the MBA teachers themselves for all that you have done. The influence of a good teacher can manifest itself in a vast number of different ways. But one of the most relevant in terms of what the teachers here are thankful to you for is nicely captured by an experience I had during my first year here back in 2010. Back then I taught 4 sections of European history. Now incidentally, my graduate degree background is actually in American history, but when I was hired here, I think Mr. Gioia felt it would be more convincing if I taught the boys European history. In any case, about 2 weeks into my high school teaching career, it was time for my first parents' night at MBA. And having just about memorized the names of the 60-odd students I was teaching, I had 4 short 7-minute windows to explain myself and my class to the parents. And as you might be able to imagine, I was also fairly nervous in my rookie year about doing and saying the right thing. And I expect that many of even the most distinguished and experienced teachers would remember a certain anxiety that first time you had to answer the question, so what exactly is it you do to a room full of parents? Actually, as a side note, I'm kind of grateful on that first night that I avoided the experience of a veteran teacher who's still at MBA, who told me that during his first parents' night, he was actually running late, and he was driving down West End Avenue, and a woman in a BMW cut him off as he was trying to turn, and in a moment of frustration, he made what we might call a highly expressive single-digit hand gesture in her direction. Then he made it to school in time, got to his first period class, got himself ready to talk, looked down, and there she was in the front row, with a name tag identifying her as the mother of one of his students. Anyway, nothing that distressing happened to me. In fact, what happened to me seemed at first to be just the opposite. So at the end of one of these little sessions, a parent came up to me and said, I just wanted to thank you and to let you know that this is Jack's favorite class. And my ego immediately began to swell. There were at least 3 Jacks in my classes, though I couldn't help notice that none of them had the same last name as the one on the mother's name tag. But yes, she went on, he just loves American history, which I'll admit sounded a little bit odd, but I thought maybe, enthusiasm, she may have just misspoken. And he especially likes the hilarious accents you do when you introduce historical characters, she added. And I will concede that my accent may have sounded a little unfamiliar to the boys, but hilarious seemed harsh, and I really don't do any impersonations in class or anywhere else for that matter. And as it turned out, of course, her son wasn't in any of my classes, nor even in the right grade to be in my classes, nor was my classroom the one he was taking history in. I was getting credit for the fun this boy was having in Dr. Clay Bailey's US history class, which met next door. But this does nicely speak to a phenomenon that is undeniable in education, namely that very often is another teacher who reaps the benefits of what the first teacher has done, which is essentially what I was getting free credit for on that evening. And that's why I want to say thank you to you today. It's an old saying that a bad workman blames his tools, but one might equally ask, how often does any kind of workman thank the person who laid the foundations? The boys you send us are already in great shape, and our job becomes both much easier and tremendously more enjoyable as a result. We get to guide them through the final 4 or 6 years of their schooling, and it's important that we do that well. But every time we get to see an exceptional student walk across the stage at his high school graduation, we need to remember that much of this is due to the foundations he was given by all of you. This is true in all walks of life. Yes, Nick Saban deserves the plaudits as he creates one national championship team after another, but so too do all the Pee Wee and middle school coaches who first identified a young player's potential and worked with him to develop into someone good enough to be recruited by Alabama. Sometimes that recruitment goes a little bit awry. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a story a year or so ago when some of the fans of Alabama were worried that their new freshman quarterback who was coming from Hawaii was going to have trouble with, quote, the language barrier now that he was living in the States. You might wonder, for all their footballing success, the geography program could still do with a little help. And full disclosure, I'm a Vanderbilt fan, so I have very few chances to make fun of Alabama football, so I'm going to take every one that I can get. But either way, this is an occasion not just for the boys to say thank you, but for their current and future teachers to say thank you to all of you as well. The students are going to speak next, and once we are done with the program in here, the boys who you taught wanted to thank you by seeing you here and showing you to the MBA library and the book that has been placed there in your honor. There will also be a reception in the main lobby outside, as Mr. Gioia mentioned, so hopefully you will stay and enjoy the afternoon and the evening and catching up as long as you like. So thank you again for all you've done for these boys. Thank you for coming to MBA today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
So would Cortland and then AJ and then Gersher please come up.
Teacher who influenced me the most is my second grade teacher, Miss Lombardi. I feel like she pushed me to be the best student I could be, and she encouraged me to always try my hardest. I felt like I could always talk to her if I needed help. She never made me feel bad if I didn't know something, but instead would help me to work through it and understand it. She had a great way of explaining even the most difficult subjects. I felt like she could help me or any other student in our class. She cared a lot about all of us and made us want to do our best for her. She made learning fun and was also very positive. As a second grader, that was important. I felt like I was happy in her class. She put too much pressure on us, but always wanted us to try to excel at everything we were doing. Her classes were interesting, but made learning fun. I always enjoyed going to her class. She always had a way of keeping things very balanced. Even when we were having fun, she pushed us to learn and do the very best we could do. She seemed to always support us if she felt like we were trying and working hard. I felt like I always did my best and learned as much as I could while I was in her class. I think I learned the most from her because she always seemed to care. Therefore, I would like to say a very sincere thank you to Ms. Lombardi for being such a great teacher and such a positive influence in my life.
Third grade at Answers was a year in which I'll never forget. I loved reading every one of the books that you read to us, and I loved researching the Civil War and the Cherokees. I hope all is well with your new students who come along every year. I love how you're interested in talking about cars that my dad has. To this day, no other teacher seems as interested as you. I love going to the Carter House to see what it was like back in the 1800s. I'm in a new school and I worked as hard as I could to get where I am right now. So I thank you because you were one of the roots in the tree to help me grow taller and taller. I still remember the whole class like it was yesterday. I remember making the chocolate candy called the Gertie bar. I remember feeling sad the last day, knowing I had to leave my classmates. I remember you reading a note to every one of us on the last day. I remember mentioning how much I love cars and that the passion has only grown since. I remember the Little Red Pen performance that we made up for the K through 5th grade students. I still have that frame on my dresser. I remember the first few months of 4th grade, where I'd pop into your classroom to say hello. I remember doing the Tennessee Daily math books, and I remember how paranoid I was with red alerts, but now I realize they weren't as bad as I thought. 3rd grade with you, Miss May, was a year that I'll never forget. 3rd grade has a special place in me, so I thank you, Miss May.
I am writing today to tell you about the most influential teacher in my life. Mrs. Oliphant was my very first ever teacher. She was also like a second mom. She knew how to teach me more advanced topics even though I was only in kindergarten. Miss Oliphant is one of those teachers that goes above and beyond to make sure her students know she cares. She really got to know me outside of the classroom too. She will attend my Pee Wee football games, and every time I would play baseball and I was at the ballpark, she made sure I would see her and she would check on me. Me and Mrs. Oliphant have a very special relationship that lasts even still today. Even now, when I umpire her son's team in baseball, she gives me some tough love behind the plate about my calls, and there overall, she is by far the best teacher I've ever had. She's funny, caring, and very helpful, and I would like to thank her for everything she has done for me and other students. Thank you.
Thanks to the three of you for being part of today's program. I asked Paul to come up now and make a few remarks, and also knew that his music, he's an excellent keyboard player. I knew that you would enjoy his music this afternoon as a nice addition to the program. He's going to perform a piece called Body and Soul that we looked up right before the program. It was written by a gentleman named Johnny Green in 1930, and was first performed by Louis Armstrong, also in 1930. So Paul, please come on up. Please join me in welcoming Paul.
First off, I would like to thank Mr. Gioia for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all, and I would like to welcome all the teachers here this evening. I wanted to talk about how critical and meaningful teachers can be in terms of care, kindness, and confidence. A multiple of teachers have influenced me. However, since I don't wish to be here all night, I will talk about two. Dr. Onstott was my English teacher junior year. I never had a penchant for English. I would walk into class as a freshman or sophomore with the mindset being something similar to, just get through these 50 minutes. However, Dr. Onstott's class altered my disposition. His class ended up being my favorite class to go to every day due to his character and personality. He is a very nonchalant yet intelligent teacher and brought that same energy to his classroom. I no longer viewed coming to English class as a chore, but rather as a fun time. I enjoyed talking to him about literature, but also about topics that weren't English related, such as music. We would talk about vintage guitars, playing jazz gigs, piano players, different rock bands, and all sorts of stuff like that. The rapport that we have now, I know will always last. The kindness that Dr. Onstott shared not just with me, but with all his students, made a lasting impact on us. Secondly, I would like to talk about Mr. Frederick. I've been playing piano for around 13 years of my life, and it has been something I take very seriously and something that I enjoy very much. I came to MBA in the 9th grade and wondered what the music program would be like, and Mr. Frederick happened to be the teacher who ran it. He immediately recognized my passion for playing a piano and gave me every opportunity he could find for me to play piano at school events. This made me really appreciate Mr. Frederick, and it displayed his kindness and care as a teacher, but also as a friend to me. I know that if I ever need to talk to someone or need advice from someone, I can always turn to him. He is and will be a teacher that I will never forget. With the MBA course load and rigorous classes, as you all will find out, I frequently get help in the mornings, as you should too. Either with the classes that I am taking, or later on, as you will need, with college things as well. Ironically, this morning I asked Mr. Gioia for help with this speech. Help session definitely reduces my stress throughout the school days and also gives me the safety to fall back on when I can't figure something out at night. Knowing that I can go into help session and ask my teachers to clarify and better my understanding of a certain topic gives me confidence and honestly acts as a lifeline for me and my GPA. Speaking of getting help in the mornings, a few days ago I had a meeting with Mr. Frederick and Mr. Gioia about college and specifically applying to Princeton and figuring out the best angle to approach that. And having people as knowledgeable and as helpful as them allows me to go through something as stress-bearing as the college admissions process relatively relaxed. And while speaking with Mr. Gioia about talking to y'all tonight, as he mentioned, he thought it would also be appropriate for me to play a song. So I thank y'all for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
I see Paul every morning because he's my advisee, and we have a program at school whereby we visit with our advisees. The first thing they do at school is they come to an advisory meeting, and Paul knows I frequently ask them questions like, what'd you have for dinner last night, or how's it going? It actually is a really smart relationship because you do get to know people intimately and you get to appreciate who they are. Well, I've learned a lot about Paul's music. When I asked him what he'd done on the weekend a few times, he said, I went down to a place like Acme downtown, and I said, oh, you played music down there? He said, yes, sir. And I said, you get paid for this? He said, yeah, I made a few $100s. And I keep thinking, this is smart, keep it up. He's going to have a fabulous career and is a great musician. So thanks for speaking. Thanks to the other students as well. Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for your great remarks. As I said at the beginning, this is just meant to be a really sweet, we hope, and meaningful afternoon and short program. So we're finished with the program, and the directions now are there'll be a reception in the foyer area outside the dining hall at the other end from where I am. And you certainly can stop and get something to drink or eat there on your way to the library, where we want everyone to go, and that's just to the right out the front doors. And when you get in the library, there'll be a certificate for you to remember this occasion. And then we want you to see the book that we've chosen to honor you and to remember you that will be placed in the library in your honor. And come back to the reception if you'd like, and just enjoy this afternoon and know that we're grateful for your being here today. So thanks very much to everyone.